There we go.
Yeah.
We'll see what this does. No guarantees, guys, none at all. But in theory, I am recording our meetings. Okay. Let's see. Another role that we have would be awe counter. Does anybody wish to be awe counter today? Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe since we have so few people today, maybe we'll just, well, let's see if we can get the awe counter in. Just one, if we can just do one person for awe counter, that'll be, we won't bother with the other roles. Anybody want to be awe counter?
Yeah, I can be an accountant.
Gautam? Okay. Can you explain the role of awe counter, please, Gautam?
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Our counter responsibilities. I'll be counting your ahs, ums, and any filler words that you have used during the speech. And I'll be reporting the final one about how many times that we have used by each individual person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yay. All right. It looks like Harun will not be our first speaker today. Oh, and we're going to skip grammarian this time around. We'll also skip word master, unless anybody would like to do those roles. Does anybody want to volunteer for any of those two roles? Okay, then we won't do those for today. Meanwhile, let's just double check that we've got all the people we need. So Harun was originally going to be the first speaker. Instead, it's going to be Tao, and I will be second speaker. To confirm that we have our evaluators, Gautam, you were originally going to be doing Tao, still going to be doing Tao, yes? Great. And I was going to be evaluated by Jose, who is also general evaluator. Is that okay, Jose?
Yes.
Great. All right. And with that, I believe, and Wan Ming, you weren't interested in being a backup speaker, correct?
Yeah, not today. Sorry.
Got it, right.
Thank you.
Just want to confirm. All right then. And with that, we will then move to our speaker portion of the meeting, unless I'm forgetting anything.
Do we have a word master?
We do not have a word master or a
I could make a word
grammarian.
if you want.
Jose, do you want to be word
Yeah.
master? Great. If you could be word master, and we've also a role for grammarian. Guessing no one wants to be grammarian either. I guess in theory I could be grammarian. I'll try a little grammarian. No promises though. Okay. All right. So as grammarian, I will be listening for our use of the English language, both good and bad. I will try to put something together and have a report at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Let's see. Jose,
I'm ready with the word.
Great. Go ahead and describe the word.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. The word for today is perfunctory. P-E-R-F-U-N-C-T-O-R-Y. It's an adjective meaning you're lacking interest, you don't care, without enthusiasm, not being thorough. Basically, the teenager did his work in a perfunctory manner. I'll post the definition in chat. And again, the word is perfunctory. I'll be monitoring the word usage of the word perfunctory and report at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose. All right. And I believe that is all of our duty roles for today. And with that, we will now turn to the part of the Toastmaster meeting that most people think of when they think of Toastmasters, which is our assigned speeches. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Tao. Everyone, please welcome Tao.
Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. Today, I want to talk about planning. This happens to be a pathway project, but I will try to incorporate my recent road trip as the context. Now, a few years ago, we had a Labor Day, and a friend of mine and I was very bored. We were looking for things to do. And we had this brilliant idea of going to Getty's Museum in LA. Now, at the time, I was in San Diego, and we are about 2 hours away. So we got excited. We hopped in the car, drove 2 hours, got to LA, and then we discovered the museum was closed on Labor Day. So this is a classic example of working very hard, but not very smart at all. And that is the importance of planning, is to, one, do the research so you don't have surprises, and then two, draw up a contingency plan in case surprises do come. Now, I want to talk about two styles of planning. The classic way of planning is actually what the Toastmaster manual teaches you. You start by basically setting very clear goals. In my case, in the case of planning a trip, that means I need to decide which national park I want to get to. Do I care more about getting to national park, or do I care more about visiting my friends? So all those things that I have to basically make a decision before I get on the trip. And the second thing that the classic planning asks you to do is take a stock of the resource that you have and make a note of the things you don't have. So in my case, since I'm doing a long road trip, I probably need a good car. And my old Toyota Yaris just wouldn't do. So pretty much that means I have to rent a car. And because I want to camp in the national park, I also need to get camping gear. So again, that's something that I have to sort out before I get on the road. Lastly, the last thing that the trip planning, the typical planning model asks you to do is to make a note of the restrictions. So in my case, the restriction mostly come in the form of noting the coronavirus hotspots. I basically have to understand where the hotspots are and understand which paths I want to take. So if you did your research and you did your preparation, at this point, you should have a pretty good idea of the options available to you, and then from which you can make a list of what's your most preferred option based on the criteria. So that's the classical way of planning. And I think most of us, any of us who plan trips, know this is essential. And this is probably the only way, like if you want to get to a lot of spots in a very short amount of time, this is the only way to get an optimal plan in, is basically do preparation ahead of time. But today, I also want to talk about a different style of planning, which is how do you plan under uncertainty? Now, in the context of my current trip, I have two problems. Number one, as I said, was the coronavirus situation. I can plan all my route all I want, but if something happens, I need to divert. And then number two, I also have this added problem of I'm currently waiting for a visa appointment at the consulate, but I don't know which day that appointment might come. It might come, it should have come this week, but it could be in reality 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, a month out, or never comes. So this poses a very big challenge because now I know I have to be around big cities, but I don't know exactly when. So in these cases, the objective as well as the landscape is highly uncertain. And in cases like this, planning becomes much more challenging. And the style I'm talking about is basically you have to be more adaptive rather than trying to looking for the optimal solution. So in my current example, basically there's a number of things I tried. First, I have to go through more extensive scenario planning. As I said, I'm prepared if they summon me to the embassy this week, but I'm also prepared in case they summon me a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or a month from now. Basically, if they give me the notice this week, I would just go to DC, get my appointment done, happily return. If it's 2 weeks from now, then I'll just take a trip down to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. If it's a month from now, I just go back to LA, which is probably the easiest way. So like you basically have to understand your options and make a list of plans for all the scenarios, the good, the bad, as well as the ugly. The second thing I have to do is basically make sure that I'm prepared to be flexible. So this played into the original decision of taking a road trip instead of taking a plane ride. And because I knew for a fact that taking a plane ride, I will have a hard time rebooking the tickets all the time if I have to change my plan. In the context of planning something bigger, if there's other stakeholders involved, I also need to give them enough heads up so that they are mentally prepared if I need to change the plan last minute. And then finally, under high uncertainty, it actually is advantageous to defer commitment. So normally when you book a trip, you actually book everything ahead of time and you will probably get the lowest price for it. But in this case, I pretty much have to book everything last minute because I don't even know where I'm going to be a week from now. This means I'm overpaying for flexibility, but that's just the trade-off that I have to accept. So in summary, under high uncertainty, when the landscape as well as the objectives are unclear, it pays to be flexible. Now, in the spirit of working smart versus working hard, and I think the key of working smart in this case is understanding what situation you're in and then choose the style that's best suits your need. What I said actually today can be generalized to project management at work as well as business strategy. If you think about it, it's very much the same thing, that the key comes down to understanding the landscape and then choosing a course of action that best suits your need. I will know with the caveat that there are two important caveats. That number one, especially in business, understanding a landscape is actually a very difficult thing to do. And the secondly, executing your plan as you imagined is also easier said than done, especially when it involves different people. We will save that for another subject at a later date. Thank you.
Well done, Tao. If everyone could just take 1 minute on chat to send Tao some feedback. Okay. Maybe a few more seconds to give Tao some feedback. Okay, we'll start wrapping things up now. And we will work on switching to our second speaker, myself. And with that, I introduce me. Yay, me. So we just had an example of someone who works smart. We'll now look at somebody working hard but not getting anywhere. So let me try to figure out a way to share my screen with you guys. And okay, can everybody see that okay? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. All right, so we will begin. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about some financial tips. So during this particular phase of the pandemic, I've been going through a lot of YouTube videos, especially the top 15 video lists of different things, like the top 15 business books you should read now. Some of the ones I've been looking at are also some financial tip videos. So I found a few that was actually kind of interesting to me because there was one that in particular that talked on the subject of how to make money, focusing on the concept of starting with $1 million, which used to be thought of as a lot of money, and now moving to becoming a billionaire. This actually mimics a talk that I had with a friend of mine a few months ago. This was actually, we're talking about a person who received $1 million from his father's loan and built it up to a multi-billion-dollar company. And my friend explained to me that he thought it was very simple to take $1 million and become a billionaire. I have to admit that that was a brand new concept to me. I never thought that that was very easy to do because of the numbers involved. When you're talking about $1 million or $1 billion, it's hard to imagine, but imagine it in seconds. 1,000,000 seconds is about 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. That's the orders of magnitude difference that we're talking about here. To go from $1 million to $1 billion is certainly doable. I mean, all you need to do, this is very, very simple. All you need to do is take every single dollar and turn that dollar into $1,000. And that's equivalent to taking $1,000 and turning that into $1 million. How much easier can that be? So you might not have $1 million, but you probably have $1. And you probably even have $1,000. So you should know how to turn those small amounts of money into something 3 orders larger. How exactly does one do that? Well, one way to think about it is that you would consider doubling your money. You would double your money. For example, let's say you doubled your money each year, starting with your $1,000. If you had 10 doubles and you did a double every single year, starting with $1,000 in 10 years, you would have over $1 million, as you can see from this chart. Isn't that simple? Then what you could do is then take that $1 million you had and double it again. And if you managed to do that in 10 years, you would then take that $1 million and turn it into $1 billion. But wasn't that easy? No problem. So now comes the question, how does one double money? Well, that's the tricky part, isn't it? One way to think about all of this is you think about your rate of return with respect to compound interest. That's usually the way we think about an investment, how much money you get back from it. The actual equation, as you can see, it's up on your screen, is kind of complicated because it involves logarithmic values, as you can see. So you've got your principal, you've got your interest rate annually, and the number of times that is compounded per year, and the number of years. That's really hard because humans do not do logarithms well. But there's a more perfunctory, simplified way to do what you might call the rule of 72. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it before, but the concept is 72 is a relatively good way of figuring out a difference between an annual rate of return and an interest rate. The time it would take for your money to double would be approximately the value associated with 72. So let me explain. Looking at this chart, at the top line, you'll see your annual rate of interest is 1%. Using the rule of 72, if you had a 1% interest rate, it would take approximately 72 years for your money to double. So let's say you had your $1,000 at 1% interest, it would take 72 years to double to $2,000. Now, you'll see the third chart over is the actual number of years. That would be if you use the log value. You can see it's not quite 72, it's a little less than that, but it's not bad. So as we go down the chart, you'll see that the interest rate increases so that you'll get a better rate of return. So as you can see, you'd have to get down to somewhere around 72, 75% in order to double your money in 1 year. This obviously works for investment, also works for things like interest rates on credit cards. So the rule of 72 is a nice little way just to keep track of how much you're making, how much you're spending. Now, once again, how to double your money is the trick. Once again, some little pieces of advice. I don't necessarily have any ideas on how you personally might look to double your money, but everyone has a different way of making money or understanding money that makes things work in their heads. And one of the things that you have to remember is that everybody does things a little differently. Some people are into stocks, some people are into real estate, some people are into the business world, creating their own corporations, some people are interested in having a job in which they're getting paid for different things. So in general, in life, you do tend to get the test before you get the lesson. So you will figure out as you go through what is the best way for you to double your money and what ways to increase the amount of rate of return on your investments. Now, the one thing that most people do agree upon is that if you want to become a millionaire or a billionaire, obviously it's a good thing to cut down on the cost of things you're spending on. You don't want to waste your money, but chances are you're not going to become ultra rich by just cutting costs. You're going to have to focus on increasing the amount of money coming in, whether that's coming in from a salary from a job or investments, whatever it is, you're going to have to sort that out. Once again, for people, the way you want to think about making money is not just working hard for the money, going out and getting a job and working lots and lots of hours. You want to figure out a way to make your money work for you, meaning when you start saving it up, you don't want to just necessarily stick it into a savings account. You do want to put it into some sort of investment vehicle in which you get some sort of passive income back on it. This way, your money makes money even while you're sleeping. And that's kind of the way in which people start out with a small amount of money and build up to larger amounts of money. That's the thing you see there, about $100 in passive income is worth more than $1,000 in worked income because there's only so many hours you can work. The last piece of advice on how to increase the amount of money, making money when you get down to it, especially in large amounts of money, is usually about creating a system, solving a problem. It's usually not about working harder. Once again, it's kind of about working smarter. The idea is if you figure out a way to solve people's problems, but do it in such a way that you build a system in which it does that problem solving efficiently, chances are you'll be able to make money off that in the long run. And with that, I hope that you have gotten some good information from this. And if you do, figure out how to double your money, and I hope that you will share it with the rest of us. Thank you very much. Okay. Yay. Okay. So if everyone could please spend a little time sending some feedback, that would be great. Okay. Maybe just a few more seconds. Okay. All right. Our next portion of our meeting will now be transferred over to the evaluation part, which is where we get our feedback on all the great speeches that we just heard. Please help me welcome our general evaluator, Jose. Jose?
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. This will be the evaluation portion of our meeting, wherein we get 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate our speakers. Our first evaluator will be evaluating Tao. It's Gotham, right?
Yep.
Yes, Gotham.
Yep.
Let's raise our hands and welcome Gordon. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jose. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I'll be evaluating Tao's speech. Thanks for the speech, Tao. It was very clearly focused on the topics that, and also the introduction of the speech. It was really good. I liked it, and you kept that speech in with the 3 points, so which is easy to remember and easy to follow throughout the speech. And you had a very good pause between sentences, and eye contact is good compared to a previous speech. But still, when we look at the camera, when I saw your speech, I cannot connect to your eyes, so I can see your eyes was like focused on some nearby window. I guess maybe you might have some sentences or notes to read that. It would be a great one, like if you could just look at the camera and see, like, connect to the audience directly through the eyes. So that would be an awesome one, because the speech and pauses, sentences framed, the points that you had maintained, and you had a very good summary and stories. Everything was really good. I really liked it. I see a good improvement, except the eye contact one I missed. When I tried to see your eyes, I was like, no, the eyelids were moving somewhere, so I cannot connect it. I have noticed a few improvements that would make more, the speech would be very appealing and directly engage the audience. Some of them are gestures. When you doing a speech, you had your closed hands like this or like this. So I thought, like, maybe it would be like you can use your gestures or you cannot show your closed hands. So that felt like, okay, the speech is okay. Does the speaker is more engaged, or he doesn't want to share more information or kind of stuff. So I felt like it's negatively impact. So if you can have a like speech or have a gesture without closing your hands, the closed fingers, that would be a good one. And I noticed a few R's and double words, like during the end of the speech, you repeated few words back to back. That could be avoided, but it was very few and not many of them. Overall, it's a great one. The local clarity was very good. I can see that, and inflation is, yeah, it's improved. Yeah, that's all I noticed. And thank you again for the speech.
Thank you, Gordon, for the evaluation. The next evaluator will be me, and I will be evaluating Georgie on our speech. Thank you very much, Georgie, for your speech. It was very insightful. I learned a few things, a lot of the content of the speech, and the way it weighed on me was more on the mathematics. There's a little bit of advice towards the end, and I liked it, but I think the balance was more, maybe more emphasis towards the end, maybe a little bit more about the advice. There's a little bit of challenge for me in terms of the mathematics. I'm an engineer, and I don't do compound computations, and so it started reeling into my head, and trying to figure out, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that equation. So that's what my impression was when you went through those. there is some kind of disconnect, I think, challenge in the speech, in that the first part was more about the numbers and how it seems like making $1 billion was difficult, and towards the end there's a way wherein that could be achieved. And I think that a little bit of bridge, a phrase there, a good bridge phrase to put the two concepts together, to make it sound like, yes, it's difficult, but you can do it this way. And maybe there's a life value phrase along the way, maybe in between the two, in between the two concepts, is more appropriate. I think it will make it a good cohesive speech if you do it that way. As far as the mechanics, I like the inflection. I notice a lot of good inflection. I like the maybe a little bit more gesture. There's a key points maybe you want to add. Maybe when you have a key point that you want to emphasize, that's good. When you make your gestures, a little bit of that maybe in your, maybe when you say things. I could say, but that one thing though, the slides were very, very colorful and very, very detailed, and a lot of the numbers were very impressive, in that you could tell that the whole speech was not just a perfunctory exercise of PowerPoint put together. So there was a lot of effort towards it. So overall, it was a good speech, very good content, maybe a bridging of the contents, and yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from just a 5-minute speech, and so I liked it all. I like it a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
And now we move towards our table topics. Our table topics master is, who's our table topics?
Wai Ming.
Wai Ming. Let's raise our hand for our table topics master, Wai Ming. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start this process by sharing a screen, if I can. Does it work? You see it? Okay, so since we only have 4 people here to do table topics, we're going to involve all of you. And this is not a perfunctory exercise, because as I like what Georgie had started, the idea that how do you make $1 billion from whatever you have. So we're going to go through that exercise, and how do we go through the process working smart versus working hard versus something else. So in this, we got to draw essentially 3 axes. Yeah. So the idea is we're going to start with Jose. We're going to ask you, Jose, on one of these dimensions, the idea of working hard in the sense of there's the idea of time versus endurance. Can you describe how do you work hard to get to $1 billion?
Okay, so that's a challenge. From George's presentation, $1 billion seems so hard because it's what, 1,000 times a multiplication, right, from a million. So it was like very, very hard. And so the first thing that came to mind when you asked me that question is, well, how am I going to do this? So I figured, in terms of working hard, I think the hardest part of getting to $1 billion is knowing. And I would say creativity is a big part of it. You have to read up a lot, research a lot, know, and be inspired. So I think knowing, I think just trying to do your research is the first part, the hard part, I think. Um, but execution is also the second part, and that part of it comes from what you plan to do. But overall, like I said, the multiplication is so challenging, and it seems it seems really you may have to do a lot of research and you may have to execute, but the sustaining is very difficult in that you have to keep yourself motivated. And so that's what I think it will be the hard work of getting to $1 billion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to ask Gautam in terms of the approach. So I heard from Jose the idea that execution is very important. So how do you execute? He also mentioned the idea of knowledge, which is not quite working hard, it's more working smart. So in addition to knowledge, what else do you need to work smart to get to $1 billion?
Thank you, Wei-Ming. So to me, seems like making or moving away from $1 to $1,000 is very easy, but multiplying that to 1,000 times and make it into 1,000,000 or 1 billion, it's really it involves not only hardest way, it also involves some smart way to get the goal, to achieve the goal. Evaluating the ideas or the execution, it's really important. How do we make sure that the way that we executed certain ideas or work will help us to achieve our goal? That's really important to me. And also getting a feedback. The evaluation will give us a feedback. Do we have enough time, or did I execute correctly? Did I make what I wanted to achieve in that given years? That's really important. In addition to the evaluation, the way that we can think about the smartest work could be keep on looking at people who have already achieved what we wanted to do. So that gives us a motivation, and in addition to that, will give us some sense about our execution style and our evaluation style. I remember once Jack Ma, which is CEO of Alibaba company, and he mentioned, do not look at people achievement. Instead, look at their mistakes. Learn from the mistakes and don't repeat it in your life. People have already did the mistakes and they know their consequences, and we know them what they have lost and what they did missed. So we have to learn from their mistakes, which is I feel that's the very smartest way to achieve our goal in our life, and that make us a billionaire company like Alibaba. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Gautam. So in some sense, in the simplistic sense, we have the dimension of working hard, which involve time and endurance and execution, and the idea of working smart with creativity and ideas and learning from mistakes, very important. So I'm gonna venture into two other areas that may be related to this, but I'm gonna ask Tao the idea of risk and leverage. How can you use that to get to $1 billion?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Let me think about it. Well, to begin with, the whole field of finance, right? If anything I learned about finance after business school was that the return is usually proportional to the risk we're going to bear in a competitive market. So no risk, no return. And that's true. Like, I mean, the thing about high interest rate is that you only get those high interest rate or high return if you are willing to take on risk. So in the case of a startup, the risk is very high. The market is not very liquid. And that's why the return could be astronomical. But in the public market, in the stock market, everybody knows, everybody have access, everybody has public information. As a result, the risk is much lower, and therefore the return is also much lower. So that's the basic thing about return, or risk. Now, when it comes to leverage, I think it's a slightly different notion. Leverage is basically, let me think about it. So leverage is kind of think of it as a double-edged sword, right? It amplifies both your upside as well as your downside. So by basically taking on the leverage, you are essentially absorbing the risk of, you have to pay back the interest, and also you have to, if something goes badly, you have to deal with margin calls and all that stuff. So you are taking on a greater set of risk. You can basically get bankrupted very quickly. But the return is that you also have potentially higher upside. So I think it is a very interesting question, because I was thinking about the same thing as Georgia was giving her speech. Is it easier to go from 1 to 1,000, or 1,000 to 1,000,000, or 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000? Like, which is harder? I actually do agree with the notion that 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000 is actually the easiest of all three, precisely because money is like, I think money does, especially capital, does have this property that you need to, the more is better, right? It kind of has it's kind of like a network effect. The more capital you have, the more you pull it together, the more things you can do with it, and the more value you can create. And as such, you can get better return out of it. And for that reason, I actually think it's easier to get 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000. However, for many of us who starts out with virtually very little, how to get to 1,000,000 is a huge problem. And I will just make one last point, is that I was doing the math myself, like 20% is you double every 2.6 years. So if you double 1,000 times, if you got 1,000x, you need 36 years to do that, even at 20% return. And in the public market, 20% return is very hard to get. You'll be like top like rock star, like money manager or something. So in closing, how to get those? So if you don't want to wait 36 years, most likely you're gonna have to take on leverage to speed up the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Georgie. Well, before that, the most interesting thing is that there was a company, and in fact, there are many of them, these hedge funds. They make a lot of good return, especially in the 90s. There's a company called Renaissance Technology. They just use computers, and that's how you get there. And that's why the tools. But it takes a lot of smart people to do that. In the meantime, so Georgie, how do you multiply any of the stuff that you do through people?
Okay. I think that might go back to the concept of leveraging that Tao was looking at previously. And there's multiple ways to leverage. We focused a lot on money, but the other aspect, as we've said, is time. Time is incredibly important. Yes, you might get $1 billion, but if it takes you 500 years, it's not necessarily useful for you, unless we have some amazing advances in medical technology. The way I think a lot of the people who do have a great deal of money manage to leverage their time, which all of us only have 7 days a week and 24 hours in that day, is, as kind of I mentioned last week to Tao, which is many people who have money hire assistants so they can leverage the time that they have. They're constantly magnifying what they're doing. I don't know any extremely wealthy people. I would love to jet around personally on private jets, but since I don't, from what I've read, it seems like many of these people have multiple assistants. They have, several of them have multiple homes. From a point of view of, especially coming from the point of view of a woman, the idea of having a home means you also need to maintain it. So you must have staff on site to maintain all of these homes and to keep everything going. So every time I think about the things that rich people have, I just see this magnifying effect of people constantly being expanded to maintain all of these private jets and private yachts and companies and homes. So I just see this magnifying effect of more and more people helping to maintain all of this money. You know, kind of going back to what Gautam was saying, there's the other aspect. While I think a lot of rich people, especially self-made, very, very wealthy people, spend probably 70, 80 hours per week working on increasing the money. I did remember a cute anecdote in a book called Space Barons. It's about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all the guys who were looking to go to Mars, right? So they have all these ultra rich guys, all of the men, and they wanted to have a face-to-face meeting with like several dozen of them. They were looking across all the calendars of these extremely busy men, and there was only one day in the entire year that they did not have a big commitment that they could not cancel. That one day, February 14th, Valentine's Day. There was nothing in their calendars on Valentine's Day. And I thought that was kind of interesting because once again, it's interesting to see people so focused on making money that you kind of wonder about other aspects of their lives. Obviously, it makes them happy, but it does kind of make you wonder if maybe they have multiplied the aspects of making money and having things, and maybe you wonder about other aspects of their life as well. I would suggest that we all think about what it is that we want in life and not just do a perfunctory thought that, oh, I just want more money. So like I said, as Gautam kind of touched on, maybe there's more to life than just making money. We do need to focus on that as well.
Well, thank you. So we've gone through table topics. The only other thought I might have is how do you live to 500 years? So if you get to $10 billion or $100 billion and live to 100 years old, you might have enough money to get a new body. In that case,
well, Warren Buffett might be on that, so we'll keep an eye on him and see what's going on with him.
We're going to return control back to our general evaluator.
Okay, everybody. So we go on to our duty masters. Oh, very good meeting in terms of topics. It was one on planning, one on making money. So we go on to our duty masters. Our first duty master is our timer. Wai Ming, do you have a report for us? Yes.
Yes, Miss General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster. I have the following time. Tao spoke for 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Georgie, 8 minutes and 29 seconds. In the evaluation, Gautam, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Jose, 2 minutes and 53 seconds. In the table topics, Jose spoke around 2 minutes. Gautam around 3 minutes or so. And Tao around 3:45, I think. And then Georgie around 3:45 as well. So that's the time I have.
Thank you, Wai Ming. We don't have a grammarian today. We have our word master.
We do have a grammarian today.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We do. Technically, it was me.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I did find a few things that I thought was really nice in Tao's speech. I liked when you said adaptive versus optimal solutions. I love the phrasing there. I thought that was really well done. Also, overpaying for flexibility, and it pays to be flexible. I thought I liked the echoing between those phrases. Let's see, Tao. I also liked when you were doing your table topics, you described leverage as a double-edged sword. I've never actually heard it described that way. I thought that was really nice. Absorbing the risk and network effects with money. And I did not hear anything else that really, really caught my ear. So Tao, it was all kind of focused on you today. Okay.
Thank you, Georgie. And then we move on to our word master. I may have missed somebody. So I'll have Georgie, Wyming, and I said the word. Did anybody else say it also? Okay. Okay, so that's our word. Let me see now. Joke master. Do we have a joke today?
Yes, Miss General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, is a very simple joke. Two lawyers walked into a restaurant. They sat down and then they opened their bags and took out a sandwich, each of them, and start eating. The waiter came by and looked at them and said, "You cannot eat in here with your own sandwiches." So they handed the sandwich to each other and then start eating. Maybe I missed that part.
Okay.
Let me say that again at the end. Do you get it or no?
Yeah, I got the old switcheroo. Thank you. Yeah. So our do we have an out counter? I didn't think we had an out counter, right? We didn't have an out
Yeah,
counter.
we have.
We do. Okay.
I noticed a few R's. I don't see. I didn't get there are many R's. Like Tau, you have less than 5, and me it's less than 5, and Weiming, Jose, and Georgie, I didn't notice anything. Maybe I missed some, but I didn't notice major R's. Thank you.
Thank you, Godam. So in terms of a general evaluation of the meeting,
Sorry, just
mean-
want to
oh, yeah,
interrupt
go
real
ahead.
quick. I am trying to figure out this balloting thing. So I did send some information about sending in your ballot. So we can try that. Okay?
So the ballot will be.
It was sent
got
in
the
the
forms?
chat. Yes. I don't know how this is going to work. Oh, wait, I've already got some responses. Never mind. We got some stuff coming in. So let's see. There's just a few more missing.
Okay, let me just. You want the ballot now? Right. I haven't done it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and do your stuff.
Okay. So towards the end, we go through a quick review of the meeting. The meeting was very hard to organize because we don't have the normal count that we normally get. So that'll be a challenge. We had allocations of our rows towards the beginning. Well, that still worked out. Even again with our limited member. So I think that went well. The speeches were very interesting. As far as the evaluation, Gordon, you did the evaluation. It covered all the major points. I think you did mention something about the mechanics, and you did a brief opinion about how the topic went, and maybe a little bit how to organize the topic. So overall, it was a good evaluation. For myself, I covered my evaluation, and I'll do a quick mental review of what I did, and something I have to do for my evaluation is organize my evaluation, so that maybe group my comments into a certain manner wherein I start with maybe reviewing the topics first and then going to the mechanics a little bit more. I was going back and forth on it, so maybe a little bit more organization in my evaluation. Overall, a good meeting. And so I'll go ahead and proceed. We'll go ahead and proceed with our balloting at the moment. Thank you very much. Let's see.
Okay. Maybe we can transfer over to our officer. And as I'm waiting to get a couple more ballots in, we can start to fill in the blanks for next week's meeting, maybe. Sound good, Waming?
Yes. Well, why don't I just ask for who's going to be Toastmaster next week? About Gautam, you ever been Toastmaster?
I have not, but I can try it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So, and then table topics. table tile.
Yeah, I can do a table talk. So.
Okay.
And then speeches. We're gonna go through speeches. It's not
I
that
can
hard.
give a
Let's see.
speech. I can give a speech.
Georgie, yeah.
Okay, I'll make it. Oh,
Jose. One more speaker.
I mean, you can check with Haroon, right? He might-
Okay, yeah. I'll put his name down. Okay, and then evaluators or general evaluator. Do any of you want to be general evaluator as well? We'll see. Anyway, that's and then evaluation, we'll have to fill those in because you guys are all speakers and all these things. So we'll fill the rest. How about that? Hannah will be back, I assume, and so we'll go from there.
Okay.
okay.
All right. Okay. It looks like we have gotten our names in, our responses. So we can just go down. Okay, so today we're going to, can I get a drum roll please for our best table topic speaker? Yay! Jose.
Okay.
All right. And our best evaluator, yay, Gautam. Yay. And our best speaker, yay, Tao. All right. Now, in theory, one might take a picture at this point, in theory, if one knew how. Let's see. All right.
Take a screenshot. in the calendar.
Screenshot. That's that how that works? Screenshot. I see it recording. I don't know. Okay.
Use a snapshot tool.
Is there a snapshot tool? Okay. I don't know how to. Does anybody know how to do this? Am I supposed to do this? I don't know how to do this.
Alt, print screen.
If you could, that'd be great.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Yeah, if you
I'll go
could.
do it.
I'm not totally certain how to do it on the setup. I know we're recording. All right. Yay, we made it through. Or mostly I made it through. Yay. All right. And I'm going to stop recording now. Stop recording.